The science of motivation explained. Motivation is one of the most misunderstood forces in human life. People often believe motivation is something you either have or you don't. Some think motivated people are simply lucky. Others believe motivation appears only when inspiration strikes. But science tells a very different story. Motivation is not magic. It is not personality-based. And it is not dependent on constant excitement. Motivation is a system. A system inside your brain that responds to structure, rewards, expectations, habits, and meaning. Welcome to Psychomotive, where we explore psychology, mindset, and human behavior in a clear and realistic way. In today's video, we are going to deeply explain the science of motivation, how it works, why it disappears, and how you can rebuild it in a sustainable way. This is not a quick fix video. This is not a hype-based motivational speech. This is a psychology-driven explanation designed to help motivation become stable, repeatable, and long-lasting. If you've ever felt motivated one day and empty the next, excited to start but unable to continue, confident mentally but inactive physically, then this video is for you. Stay until the end, because by the final section, you'll understand why motivation feels difficult and how to work with your brain instead of against it. Let's begin. What motivation really is. Scientific foundation. Before we talk about how to increase motivation, we need to understand what motivation actually is. Motivation is not a feeling. Psychologically speaking, motivation is a drive state, a process that pushes behavior toward a goal. Your brain constantly evaluates three core questions. Is this worth my effort? Do I believe I can succeed? Will this action reduce discomfort or increase reward? If the answer to these questions is unclear or negative, motivation drops. Motivation exists to conserve energy. Your brain's primary goal is not success, it is efficiency. If your brain believes a task will cost too much energy with uncertain reward, it reduces motivation automatically. This is not laziness. This is survival programming. Understanding this changes everything. The brain systems behind motivation. Motivation does not come from one single area of the brain. It is produced by interaction between several systems. 1. The dopamine system. Dopamine is not a pleasure chemical. It is a motivation and anticipation chemical. Dopamine increases when progress is visible, rewards are predictable, effort feels meaningful. Low dopamine does not mean low ability. It often means low clarity or low perceived reward. 2. The prefrontal cortex, decision center. This part of the brain handles planning, self-control, long-term thinking. When motivation feels blocked, this area is often overloaded. Too many decisions reduced motivation. This is why simplicity increases action. 3. The limbic system, emotional filter. This system decides whether something feels safe, threatening, worth engaging. If a task feels emotionally heavy, motivation decreases, even if the task is logically important. Why motivation disappears so fast? Many people start motivated but lose it quickly. This happens because motivation is reactive, not constant. Common psychological reasons. Motivation drops. Goals are too abstract. Progress is invisible. Rewards are delayed. Expectations are unrealistic. Identity is disconnected from action. Your brain prefers short feedback loops. When effort and reward are too far apart, motivation weakens. This is why relying on feeling motivated is unreliable. Extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation, important distinction. Science separates motivation into two types. Extrinsic motivation, driven by external rewards, money, recognition, approval. This type works short-term, but it fades when rewards disappear. Intrinsic motivation, driven by internal meaning, curiosity, mastery, purpose. This type is slower but far more stable. Sustainable motivation comes from alignment, not pressure. Why discipline often fails without motivation. Discipline is often misunderstood as the opposite of motivation. In reality, discipline is a structure that supports motivation. Discipline without clarity feels like punishment. Discipline with purpose feels like direction. Motivation grows when discipline reduces decision fatigue. You don't need more willpower, you need fewer internal conflicts. The biggest motivation myth. The biggest myth about motivation is this: I'll start when I feel ready. Science shows the opposite. Motivation often comes after action, not before it. Action creates feedback. Feedback creates belief. Belief fuels motivation. Waiting for motivation trains your brain to delay action. Motivation is a system, not a mood. Motivation is not something you wait for. It is something you design. Your environment, habits, self-talk, and expectations all feed into the motivation loop. When the system is weak, motivation collapses. When the system is strong, motivation becomes automatic. What comes next? Preview, watch, retention. In the next part, we will break down why goals alone don't motivate, how clarity outperforms passion, the psychology of starting when you feel stuck, how small actions rewire motivation. This is where motivation stops being emotional and becomes practical. Why goals alone do not create motivation. Most people believe motivation comes from having big goals. In reality, goals alone rarely create motivation. Psychology research shows that goals without structure increase pressure, not action. When a goal feels too big, too far away, too vague, the brain labels it as high effort with uncertain reward. And when that happens, motivation drops. This is why people often feel inspired after setting goals, but stuck a few days later. Goals describe where you want to go. They do not explain how your brain should move toward it. Motivation needs clarity, not ambition. The problem with big goals. Big goals activate imagination, but they also activate fear. Your brain begins to calculate. Time required, energy required, risk of failure. If the cost feels high, your brain applies resistance. This resistance feels like procrastination, overthinking, mental fatigue. Not because you are weak, but because your brain is trying to protect energy. Motivation increases when goals are translated into small, clear actions. The psychology of starting. Why the first step is hard. Starting is the hardest part of motivation. This is because starting requires decision-making, energy investment, uncertainty. Once action begins, motivation often follows. This is called activation energy in psychology. Your brain needs an initial push before momentum can form. That push does not need to be big. It needs to be clear and simple. How small actions trigger motivation. Small actions reduce mental resistance. Examples: opening a document, writing one sentence, standing up and stretching. These actions send a message to the brain: I'm already in motion. Once motion begins, the brain releases dopamine linked to progress. This creates a motivation loop. Action, feedback, belief. More action. Motivation grows through movement, not planning. Clarity is more powerful than passion. Many people search for passion to feel motivated, but passion is unstable. Psychology shows that clarity creates more consistent motivation than emotion. Clarity means knowing the next step, knowing why it matters, knowing when it ends. When your brain understands these points, resistance decreases. Instead of asking, how do I feel about this? Ask, what is the next clear action? The role of expectations in motivation. Expectations shape motivation more than effort. When expectations are unrealistic, motivation collapses quickly. Confidence decreases. Progress feels disappointing. When expectations are flexible, motivation stabilizes. Effort feels lighter. Progress feels meaningful. Motivation grows when progress matches expectation. Why comparison destroys motivation? Comparing yourself to others creates false benchmarks. Your brain interprets comparison as, I'm behind. This triggers threat response, not motivation. Psychology shows that motivation improves when focus stays on personal progress, internal standards, skill development. Confidence fuels motivation. Comparison weakens it. Reward timing and motivation. Your brain prefers immediate feedback. When rewards are delayed too far, motivation fades. This is why habits work better than distant goals. To improve motivation, celebrate small completions, acknowledge progress, track effort, not perfection. Progress visibility keeps motivation alive. The difference between pressure and drive. Pressure feels heavy. Drive feels purposeful. Pressure says, you must do this. Drive says, this matters to me. Psychologically, pressure increases stress hormones. Drive increases focus and engagement. Motivation improves when meaning replaces obligation. Identity-based motivation. One of the strongest motivation systems is identity. When actions align with identity, motivation becomes automatic. Instead of saying, I need motivation to work, shift to, I am someone who shows up consistently. Your brain works to protect identity. When action supports identity, resistance decreases. Why environment matters more than willpower. Motivation is influenced by surroundings. Your environment sends constant signals to your brain. Ease, difficulty, distraction. When environment supports action, motivation increases naturally. You do not need stronger willpower. You need fewer obstacles. What comes next? Part 3 preview. In the next part, we will explain the habit-motivation connection, why consistency beats intensity, how routines protect motivation, the science of momentum. This is where motivation becomes sustainable. The habit-motivation connection. Motivation and habits are deeply intertwined. Psychology shows that motivation is strongest at the beginning of a new task. Once the initial excitement fades, habits take over. Habits automate action. Example, brushing your teeth doesn't require motivation every morning. Your brain has turned it into a habit. Similarly, when we convert motivated actions into routines, motivation becomes sustainable. How habits reduce mental resistance. Every decision requires mental energy. Every choice you make triggers decision fatigue. Decision fatigue reduces motivation. Habits minimize decisions by pre-deciding the action, reducing uncertainty, creating automatic behavior loops. Example, instead of deciding, should I exercise? Every morning, a habit makes it automatic. Your brain no longer debates energy cost. Action happens naturally. The power of consistency. Consistency is more powerful than intensity. Many people fail at motivation because they focus on doing a lot at once. Psychology shows small, consistent action over time leads to bigger results. Motivation thrives when progress is visible. Intense bursts without routine burn out quickly. Example, 20 minutes of focused work daily is better than 2 hours once a week. The brain responds positively to repeated wins. Building momentum. Momentum is the key to sustained motivation. Once action starts, it generates energy, confidence, focus. Momentum creates a self-reinforcing cycle. Action 2. Positive feedback. 3. Belief 4. More action. Even small actions contribute. Writing 1 paragraph, making 1 phone call, walking 5 minutes. These micro-actions are motivation triggers. The role of accountability. Motivation strengthens when others are aware of your actions. Psychology research shows public commitments increase follow-through, social support reinforces habits, accountability reduces procrastination. Methods. Share goals with friends or mentors, join online communities or forums, track progress publicly. The brain feels a mild social cost for skipping action, which drives motivation. Using feedback to sustain motivation. Feedback is essential for growth. Immediate feedback signals progress, dopamine boost, motivation rises. Delayed feedback, uncertainty, motivation fades. Ways to implement. Track tasks visually, checklists, boards. Use apps to measure progress. Celebrate completion of small milestones. Regular feedback loops keep motivation alive over long periods. Overcoming setbacks without losing motivation. Setbacks are inevitable. The brain often interprets failure as threat. Motivation collapses. Solution: reframe setbacks as learning opportunities. Separate identity from results. Focus on next small step. Example: missed a workout? Instead of thinking, I'm failing, think, I'll resume tomorrow. This prevents the brain from shutting down motivation entirely. The psychology of environmental cues. Your surroundings constantly shape motivation. Cluttered spaces, distraction reduced motivation. Organized spaces, clarity action more likely. Cues that help: dedicated workspace for work, visible reminders of goals, easy access to tools and resources. Small adjustments in environment create automatic triggers for motivation. The role of energy and physical state. Motivation is closely tied to physical energy. Poor sleep, low nutrition, or lack of exercise reduce dopamine. Lower motivation, good sleep, hydration, and movement, higher energy, stronger drive. The brain integrates body signals with mental signals. Feeling lethargic. Perceived task cost increases. Feeling energized, tasks seem manageable. Maintaining physical energy amplifies psychological motivation. Applying motivation. Science in daily life. Step-by-step approach. Break goals into tiny, clear steps. Build habits around repeated actions. Prioritize consistency over intensity. Use momentum to maintain engagement. Track progress visually. Leverage social accountability. Adjust environment for action cues. Maintain physical energy. By integrating these principles, motivation becomes reliable and sustainable, not a fleeting feeling. What comes next? Part 4, Preview. In the final part, we will cover advanced strategies for self-motivation, the science behind delayed gratification, how to maintain motivation long-term, real-world examples of highly motivated people. This is where motivation stops being abstract and starts being practical.